This is the all-new Hyperice X2 knee sleeve. In today's video, I'm going to talk about what this device is. I'll cover what comes with it when you purchase it. I'll go over the specifications and features of it, and then I will provide my overall thoughts after using it. Before I get started, I want to acknowledge that this is now the second generation of their device. They first introduced this product about 3 years ago when it was completely cutting edge. It is a cold device that doesn't use water. It is completely fan driven. It's a contrast therapy device, so it does both heat and cold. And now the new version also introduces compression. So let's start by taking a look at the device itself, which does look very similar to their first generation. You've got sort of these fans circled around where your knee will go on this circle. And then you have a control unit and pump. This box right here is basically everything that controls the device. So it's your battery, it's your OLED screen and controls, and it's the pump that controls the compression and the cooling on the device. So you've got that there. You have the OLED screen. The OLED screen, you've got a power button, you've got a play pause button. When you turn it on, you've got 3 additional buttons here that are going to control the compression, the heat, and the cold, as well as the time functionality once you turn it on. There is a bit of Hyperice branding here, just on the front of it. On the back side of it, you have 2 Velcro straps, one larger, one smaller. You've got the Hyperice H on the smaller one. This is sort of a neoprene sleeve. You've got Velcro on the inside of both of those. And then on the inside, you have sort of this rubberized silicone surface that goes against wherever you're going to actually be doing the treatment. And again, this is designed for the knee, but it can be used really anywhere on your legs, on your thigh, on your calf. But just any of the treatment's going to be around where these 5 different fans are. Now, remember, you've got this circle here, so that's really designed where your kneecap goes. But again, you can really put it anywhere. The fabric on the outside of it is just sort of this crosshatch pattern fabric. It's the same fabric that you get on the Normatec boots, which is, a sturdy material and nothing overly fancy looking, but it does fit the vibe of this device. The next thing you get is actually 2 little extensions. So if you do have larger legs, you can extend these Velcro straps just so it fits around either a wider thigh or a wider calf. It is a battery-powered device. The battery-powered source for this is quite big. So it comes in 2 separate pieces. You have basically the power unit itself, and then you have an adapter cord. You've got the Hyperice branding on there. And then this power cord just plugs into the top side of the housing unit on the device itself. And then lastly, you do get a quick start guide as well as a warranty and more detailed instruction manual. And then you do get 2 Hyperice stickers, 1 white and 1 black. So that's everything that comes with the device. Now let's talk about some of the specifications and features of it. I'll also cover what's different from this generation versus the previous generation. And to start, the first thing that is different with this is that this does implement compression. So the previous generation was just heat and cold. We now have compression, which really helps with the fit. This isn't going to act the same as a true compression boot like the Normatec boots. This is just designed to help it fit more snug so that you get more of a direct application of the heat or the cold on your treatment area. Now, when we talk about compression boots in the sense of the Normatec boots, those are designed to move fluid. So they're going to be all encompassing on your legs. That is not the case with these. The compression is primarily just going to be on the front side of the device. And again, it is simply to help this fit better so that you get a better performance from the device and that your treatment is much more improved from the previous generation was strictly just Velcro. Now with this compression, you do get 5 different levels of compression. The lowest level is going to be 80 millimeters of mercury and the highest level is going to be 160 millimeters of mercury. That's just a pressure gauge. So level 1 is going to be 80, level 2 is 100, level 3 is 120, level 4 is 140, and level 5 is 160. I will show that in action here in a little bit, but let's talk about the heat and cool function on this. So both of these are a big improvement from the previous generation. So on the previous generation, the high temperature was 113. On this generation, we get 5 different settings that are going to go from 105 degrees all the way up to 121 degrees. So a little bit of an improvement there in the heat. So level 1 is going to be 105, level 2 is 109, level 3, 113, level 4, 117, and then level 5, 121 degrees Fahrenheit. On the cold side of things, same thing, we get 5 different levels, and this generation actually goes 5 degrees colder than the previous generation. So previous generation went to 45 degrees, this one goes down to 40. So those 5 levels, it's going to start at 60 degrees Fahrenheit, level 2, 55, level 3, 50, level 4, 45, and then level 5, 40 degrees. So significant improvement there on both sides of things. When it comes to turning the device on, you do also have the ability to adjust the times from 10 minutes all the way up to 40 minutes, just depending on what session you want to do there. And you can do complete contrast therapy with this. So if you set it for 10 minutes, it'll go 5 minutes cold, 5 minutes warm. If you set it for 40 minutes, it'll alternate the same way. It's always going to do the cold functionality first. The weight of this device is also a little bit heavier than the previous generation. It's a 1/2 pound heavier. It weighs in at 2.5 pounds. So it does sound like that is a little bit heavy, but remember, most of this weight is right here in this part. And that's just going to be resting up against your leg. It's not like it's anything you have to hold, like a heavy massage gun or anything like that. So I really don't mind the weight being slightly heavier with this. We get basically the same battery performance with this. They advertise that the battery is 34% more than the first generation. However, the first generation battery was rated at 1.5 hours. That's the same as this. If you have this on the max heat setting, it's going to go 1.5 hours. If you have it on the max cold setting, it's going to be able to go for 1 hour. If you're using it in 10-minute sessions, you know, you're going to get at least 6 sessions out of it if you're using it on that cold function, which is great. Now, I do want to actually show this in action. So I'm going to open it up here because I want to actually show the compression bladders that are inside of it. In order to turn the device on, you just press and hold the power button here. The screen will light up with the different functions there. I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick that up. You also get your Hyperice logo that lights up here. That's going to change colors, whether it's doing hot or cold functionality. So the first button here, this is your compression. You've got the 5 different levels there. So I'm going to go ahead and set it on 5 so we can hopefully see visually where those air bladders are inside of it. And then I'm going to go level 1 cold, level 1 heat. And then when you're ready to go, you just press the play button and it's going to immediately start. And you see here, I've got it on the 10 minutes. And it'll switch halfway through. I'm going to hold this by my mic so you can hear the fans. Immediately, all these fans turn on. And through these fans, it's just extracting air. There's no water in this. There's no liquid, anything like that. And it is almost immediately starting to get cold. Now, again, you have sort of this silicone rubber layer, so it's not going to be directly on your skin. I don't think they recommend you put it directly on your skin, but that's how you're going to feel it the most. And remember, this only goes to 40 degrees. So this isn't going to mimic ice, but you don't have the issue with ice of having to wrap ice bags around with plastic wrap. You don't have any water. Certainly much more portable than ice. So the technology here is absolutely incredible. So it is starting to inflate here now. And I want to just show where those air bladders are inside of this. So again, this is the bottom side, which would be, you know, below your knee. You have basically an air bladder that runs this entire bottom portion. So it's here, and it's up underneath these 2 devices. That's one air bladder there. Then the next portions that are filling with air are up on the top side here. And I'm going to flip it around here to hopefully try to show this a little bit more. But I'm going to call these like ribs of air compression. So you've got 3 on one side and 4 on the other. And they're ribs because remember, this needs to be able to bend around your leg. So having that space in between each one allows it to bend on top of each other. If it was just one big air bladder, it would actually be pulling the device away from your legs. 4 individual channels of air bladders here and 3 on this side and then on the bottom side. So you've got nothing really on the full sides here, nothing in the middle. This middle is going to remain flat the entire time. Again, ideally where your kneecap is. But this compression, because it's got those bladders in ribs, allows you to fully encompass your leg with it. Just like that. So you can probably see the bottom ones easily inflated there. You can see the ribs here a little bit easier, but this gives you a sense of what it looks like when it's actually on your leg. And I will show that here in a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that these were very visible. Then when you're done with the session, you can just power the device off. It will immediately start to deflate. It is a very slow deflation process. There's nothing that evacuates the air on its own. It's just kind of gravity. But you can easily just then unvelcro it and take it off your leg and let it just deflate on its own. Some other things about this. So it does say that it has Bluetooth compatibility. The instruction manual says one of the first steps you should do is actually connect it with your Hyperice app. I tried to do so. It doesn't show up in the device, only the first generation device. So I don't know if I'm too early. It's not yet in the app. But it does state in the instruction manual that it does have Bluetooth compatibility. The previous generation allowed you to select individual temperatures. So even though you have your 5 levels, you could actually go like 1 individual degree in between all those levels. So I'm assuming we're going to have that same functionality as well. It also just gives you some guidance if you're warming up, if you're cooling down, if you're trying to do different things specifically with this. It'll give you time suggestions, pressure suggestions, temperature suggestions. So certainly some good use from that app. So I'm hoping that they get that up and running soon so that I'm able to check that out and fully use all the capabilities of this device. But that being said, I do want to actually show myself putting it on, describe what I'm actually feeling once it is on. So I'm going to test this with pants on. Again, you just line that circle up with your kneecap and then stretch the device around as snugly as you can. I find that it's easier to do standing up when the device is straight. And then when you're ready to get started, just power it on and hit play. And it'll start to fill up. And as it fills up, it's going to fit much more comfortably, much more snugly around your leg. Now, like I mentioned earlier, as soon as you turn it on, even with pants on, I can start to feel that this is getting cold. Most of the cold, though, is directly below these fans. I'm not getting anything cold up here or down here, or really even in the middle, directly where my kneecap is here. It's all directly below these little fans. Now, I have it on the cold setting right now. I'm just going to go ahead and switch it over to the hot setting just so I can describe what that feels like. Now, one thing I also want to mention is that you can't do just compression with this device. It doesn't allow you to do that. You have to have one of the heat functionalities turned on. So you see it's red here on this H. That means the heat's turning on. So it's going to take a couple seconds. Usually takes about 30 seconds till you start to notice the temperature change. But it is very quick. Like I am starting to feel that warmth now already. And one thing with the heat, it does seem a little bit more noticeable. You know, it is still only coming below these fans, but I do tend to feel it a little bit more in this area in the middle of my knee. And that compression now is really firm. So you can kind of see one of the air bladders here. You got another air bladder here and here. And again, sort of like a T shape around the bottom of my knee here. Really, really interesting. You can bend your knee with it still. I don't know if that's recommended or not, but really you're just trying to get the temperature benefit from this. So again, really quiet, nothing that you're going to interrupt. The price of this is $449. It comes with a 1-year warranty. It is TSA approved, FSA, HSA approved. There's also a shoulder version of this for the exact same price. Again, you can kind of use this wherever you want. So if I wanted to slide this up and use it on my thigh, I could, but this is overall a big improvement from their first generation. Obviously, it's been 3 years, so they've been working on a lot of this technology for quite some time. I do fully expect that we're going to start to see some variation of this that is going to be fully built into those Normatec boots. I think when we get to that point, it's going to be a very, very expensive product initially. Just knowing how expensive this is, I think the price point of this is maybe just a little bit off at $450. I think it probably needs to be closer to like the $200 range to really get strong buy-in from customers. But again, if you're somebody that is finding that you need to ice your knees or heat your knees very, very frequently when you're working out or competing, it's certainly worth it. The heat is very noticeable. The cold is very noticeable. If I were to just talk through some of the things that I really do like about this, I love that the temperatures are both colder and hotter than the previous generation. I love that we have those 5 levels. The compression is a huge game changer. It really just does make a huge difference in how it fits. The previous generation, it was basically like, hey, if you can get these straps tight enough and you can kind of feel it, then great. But just the nature of how your leg is shaped, it's tough to get a smooth, comfortable, flat surface fit on all of the individual fans here. So the compression really helps with that fit. So that is a huge win. I think the cold, one of my knocks on the previous generation was that it was cold, but it wasn't really a replica for ice. This still isn't a replica ice, but it is much more noticeably cold than what I remember from the previous generation. So this is certainly something where I think you can finally start to get the point where it's like, okay, I actually feel like I'm getting a great benefit to this, and maybe I'll toss that ice bag. Now, the next thing would be the things that I maybe dislike about this. I don't love that it doesn't come with any sort of carrying pouch. At $450, even if it just had something that I could carry the power cord with it, it would just be a nice little addition, help protect it. Obviously, all these fans, there's a lot of expensive technology in there. You don't want dirt or dust getting into those. So having some sort of carry pouch would be nice, and obviously not a huge expense in order to throw that in. I don't like that the Bluetooth didn't work on it. It says that it was supposed to have Bluetooth. I'm not sure if it actually will or not. I don't know why they would publish it in the instruction manual if they didn't. So my speculation is that it's just not yet available in their app, but a little bit disappointing here on an initial test. I think the price point, like I mentioned, is a little bit off. I think we really need to get closer to the $200 price point where this is going to make sense. When you compare this to what a lot of the high-end massage guns are able to do for basically the same price, this is really pretty limited in what it does comparatively. So I just think, I think to really get that public buy-in, it needs to be closer to the $200 range instead of the $450 range. Little side note there, because they did come out with this version, the first generation did drop about like $90 in price. So you can get that on a bit of a discount now. So if you're just looking for that warm and cold technology, you don't mind the compression component of it, I would steer people in that direction. And then lastly, something small. This is something that I even say about all the compression boots, but there's no manual deflate on this or automatic deflate on this. You just have to wait on gravity to let it deflate. It would be nice if there was just something you could flip and deflate it all really quickly, but that's super small. The fact that you can just unvelcro this really easily and take it off really doesn't make that as important as it does with some of those bigger compression boots. But overall, that is just a really quick overview of the Hyperice X2 knee. I think the technology is awesome. I think we're going to see a lot of evolution on where this could go. But if you guys have questions about this device, go ahead, drop it in the comments down below. I will do my best to answer those. If you like videos like this, please consider giving it a thumbs up, hitting that subscribe button with the notification bell. I have new videos all the time on the up and coming products in the athlete recovery space. I always love finding out about new products. So if you have suggestions, please drop those in the comments down below. But otherwise, that is the Hyperice X2 knee. That's a review. Enjoy your recovery.